I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha Packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Today we've got a guy who has become famous for painting the coupons, the customized coupons that we have going around. He's also been an individual who started an AO, the Brickyard, and today we have Huffy on. Thanks for joining us, Huffy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, since I'm doing the intro, I'll just ask the first question. So why don't you go ahead and tell us how you got started? Tell us the why behind the name.
Awesome. So I'm one of Brazilian's many offspring off his tree, if you would. My wife had his kid in preschool, so I saw him up at Rockford quite a bit. We weren't friends, didn't really know him at all, and he really is the worst recruiter. So I don't know how he has so many people, because he's like, hey man, I work out with some guys, you want to do it with us? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. And a couple weeks later, he'd just throw it out again, and it was Memorial Day, 2019, so I'm coming up on my 3-year. Nice. And he was like, hey man, tomorrow morning at the school, we'll be up there doing a Memorial Murph. And so I thought it was actually a one-off, because it was Memorial Day, you guys were doing the Murph for Memorial. And I was like, all right. So I set my alarm, I sleep like junk, because I'm so worried I'm going to oversleep, and I wake up and it's 4:30 and there's some clouds and it's kind of drizzling. And I didn't even have his phone number, so I sent him a Facebook message and I said, hey, do you guys do this outside in the rain still? And I was thinking it was going to be canceled, and he didn't respond, and so I ended up showing up, and there's 10 guys out there and it's raining. I was like, what is going on? And he kind of introduces me a little bit, and everyone has gloves on, and I'm like, what do I need gloves? You didn't tell me anything, Brazilian. And so he goes to his car, gives me a set, and off we go and do the Murph. It kind of rocked my world. Very sore, and then it turns out they were doing another one back to back, and they're like, you should do it. And I was like, no, I shouldn't. So I went to the pool that day, and man, I was telling people like how almost accomplished I felt doing that workout. A lot of people didn't know what the Murph was, and the story behind it, and so I was like, yeah, they do it on Memorial Day. It's such a cool, event that they do for this, and come to find out it's every Monday. But I couldn't walk for about a week and a half after that, but I still came back. In the circle, tater tot was the cue. They asked me, what I do, hobbies, etc. I'm a big cyclist, road biking. I do a couple 100 miles a week, week-long bike rides, and literally no one said anything, and tater tot just said, I've wanted to say this forever, Huffy! And he's like, there it is. So I embraced it. Some names you learn to love, like Knobs. That was kind of a diss a little bit, and I learned to embrace that. But for me, Huffy was always like, oh, that's a cool one. And then some people meet me and they think it's because I smoke crack or something like that with my energy, and sometimes, but no, it's because I cycle a lot.
Yeah, I love it. It's cool that you have a name where we have a sound afterwards, right? You can do Huffy and Ching Ching.
Yep, and it's funny, you listen to how people pronounce that, and you'll get Ching Ching, some people say Bring Bring, and then Fulton says Bling Bling, and people are like, no, there's no L, man. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, I enjoy that. Enjoy the name.
So from a fitness standpoint, though, you were already, like, you weren't necessarily away from fitness,
correct,
right? You were biking, and
yep,
was the workout, so it was challenging because it was a Murph, but what was your
Very much
experience?
so. Cycling is way different than running.
Yeah.
And in May, I'm just starting to get in my cycling season. But I had done P90X in the basement that winter.
Yeah.
So I'd been doing some pull-ups, some cardio, started biking, and so, but I mean, like, I could bike 100 miles, and before this, if I had to run a mile, I would literally be gassed. I mean, it just doesn't translate. And so I would say I felt really strong with how I did that first Murph, or like proud of myself with how I kind of did that. But literally, it was the squats, just going down for a week. I mean, I posted that Tuesday at Cornhusker, and it was tough. It was rough. But so, I mean, overall, I was in decent shape, but not that good of shape.
So you did end up posting the next day?
Yeah, yeah.
So what got you hooked, I guess, or got you coming back?
Someone just invited me. They said, "Hey, you coming tomorrow morning?" And I said, "Where's it at?" And they said, Exarban. And I said, "Sweet." And so then I reached out to a buddy who lived down the street, and which was Josh Willett, Smash Mouth, and him and I started to go together, and him and I became almost an accountability partner a little bit. We picked each other up almost for the first 3 months just to make sure we would get there.
Did you EH him, or did he go? Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So then his first post was at Cornhusker?
It was, I think, that following week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's awesome.
So he's coming up on his 3 years too. But yeah, I mean, that was a neat thing, because I mean, that's kind of like I was telling you with an FNG yesterday. Sometimes all it takes is just to ask.
Yeah.
Just to reach out afterwards, and for me that was a big piece. Is they're like, "Hey, you coming tomorrow?"
Yeah.
Well, and you got such a great guy
cool.
that just stuck around too. I've talked about this. I've had a couple guys at FNGs where they
One and done.
Yeah, one and done. They're like, it's not for me, and you send the invite out, and they may pop in once every 6 months, but
Right.
it's just interesting that it sets for different people.
It's funny you mentioned knobs. One of the things he said when we talked with him was, ask the guy if he's tell him where you're going tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Don't send him like the schedule of 37 different workouts and
absolutely.
refer to them with the jargon of
Right.
like, hey, go to Paradise Island,
Yep.
right? They start to think we're even more of a cult once you do
100%.
that.
Yep.
So I love that strategy. What so as you got into it, I mean, were you a 6-day-a-week guy right away, or
No, I was never a 6-day-week guy. It was 3. I did Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays for the most part, and then started doing Saturdays when you started the pit.
Yeah.
And so then I was consistently.
Someone had to keep it alive.
Dude, those first months, it was on life support.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh and I drove to Smash Mouth, and I drove down there quite a bit just because there were single digits, 4 guys, and so definitely wanted to support you and that adventure of trying to grow that. But so that kind of got me started on Saturdays, and even now, I would say I'm a 4-day-a-week kind of guy. Last week with the shovel flags each day, I went all 6, and by the end, my body was like,
yeah, get out of here.
I did not appreciate that. So I'm not as young as I used to be.
Yeah. I'm still convinced there was probably a text thread of guys like, hey, we got to go to the pit, otherwise Plague's gonna lose. And I'm so thankful. It's funny. Sharpie Swagger just took a while, right? To get kicked off.
Well, it just needs the right leadership.
Exactly.
And Gunner was the right guy.
It was Gunner.
Gunner was the right guy. What? So you knew a lot of guys already coming, or?
Not really, actually.
Okay.
So it was kind of neat, actually. After that first Murph post, I got a text from at the time it was Pat Burke is all I knew him by.
Sure.
His brother Matt and I went to college together, and so I knew Matt a lot. And then Pat and I golfed together with Matt in a couple tournaments, so I knew Pat through that. And I get a text from him. He goes, "Did I just see you on Twitter?" And I was like, how? I don't know. Did you? Like, why would I be on Twitter? I didn't have Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I got that text from him and then a couple others. But overall, no, I really didn't know many of these guys whatsoever, which was kind of cool because that was one thing I was kind of lacking in my life. I had the same kind of core group of college buddies, but that was 3 of them, and life kind of happens and moves away, and kids in different ages, and so it's kind of a lucky little happenstance that I would say, some of the core group of guys that I have friendships with now would never have guessed that on that day one.
Well, and that's so crazy too, that it just is such a good tool to get you plugged into the community. I mean, how many guys in your neighborhood are posting, right? 10 plus?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And to not really know them very well before that exercise group, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool too. So you knew Gobbler before F3.
Correct.
And then you both kind of launched a site same week.
Yep.
And
we did the Dangers over that Wednesday, and I did on that Friday. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
What else from a fellowship perspective do you feel like you've had opportunities to engage, or like cafeteria, some of those things, or what's been your kind of experience as you've grown in the group?
Cafeteria was always important. My wife, we almost had like a little bit of an argument because she started to work out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so I actually had to leave the workouts early by 5 minutes. And there was one time, like, well, I don't even know why I go to the workout anymore then. Like, it was like the workout wasn't the point. It was after the workout a little bit. And she almost kind of didn't comprehend that a little bit. So I always enjoyed the coffee because then you talk with guys you normally don't do. Sometimes not in your show like your core group of friends. It's just whoever's at your workout. But then we had a lot of happy hours, evenings. I mean, especially with COVID, kind of like some guys, we had a smaller group get together.
Yeah.
And when you do that, we did that 6 days a week, you become pretty close with 10 guys, you know, and that has continued. I mean, we still probably get 300 texts a day.
Yeah. For all these lawyers that don't work.
That they really, you know, I mean, and if Folsom ever has an old-fashioned is watching a movie, you'll get a play-by-play through Signal. But no, so I mean, that is probably probably the best things of it. It's just the connections, the friendships. I mean, you know, Sean Toadstool and I, we went to Kansas City with our families last year. We're looking at taking a trip this year, going camping Brazilian this weekend, and our kids have become friends. I mean, like, just the fingers and the connections, and everyone knows everyone. I mean, it's fascinating how connected each person is to someone else, and then connected in a different part of your life that isn't related to F3, and they know someone from there. So, yeah.
I love that. You know, it's interesting because Omaha is like such a small town, you know, and you start to see that. And I think what was cool for me was you start to see these guys in F3, and then you see them in the community, and you realize like, oh, like we have a community here, right? Omaha is no longer a city full of strangers. It's like, oh, I know these people, and I think I know a little bit about what they stand for.
Yeah.
For guys that maybe haven't read or have kind of skimmed through Free to Lead, did you read that? Have you read that book?
I have.
Tell me about that. Did you identify with stuff in there, or what stuck out to you when you read that?
The pogo, the sifter, the bowling ball.
Yeah.
I mean, those hit so hard on the head. I mean, I was the guy who did P90X, and I would lose 30 pounds, and then I would put back on 35 pounds, and I would do it again the next summer, just down and up, and down and up. And I had the friends who you talk to twice a year, and because they're almost long-term friends, you keep it for nostalgia versus actual depth and relationship. So it was kind of amazing how, like, I know guys have said it, it's almost like the book was written at them and to them a little bit. And I thought I was happy, and I was happy. I mean, love my wife, love my kids, have some good friends, but just some things were missing, and F3's given me the avenue and the doors and the tools to kind of fill some of those voids. It's also caused some strife. You know, I also have an addictive personality. Like, usually if I go all in on something, I'm like all in, like just all in. And I talked about it when we did the book study on Free to Lead, and how F3 actually became almost the middle of my concentric, some of the guys, and priorities were a little backwards on some of those. You know, instead of rushing home to get the kids from school early, I'd be like, well, I'm gonna go hang out with my buddies. Type thing.
Well, and I think that's something that everyone does. I mean, this guy right here deals with the same thing. We've had many conversations.
There's a fourth person in the room.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's something you got to find balance,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's really easy, especially when it's new.
Yeah.
It's something that feels so fresh. I remember after my first cue, I'm like, oh my god, this is like a high. Right?
Yeah.
The high from your first cue or your VQ is just insane.
You have the best form on your first VQ.
Oh my god.
The adrenaline. You're the fastest person, the strongest, the best squats.
It's just so strange, like how important it is to you at that moment, right? I mean, my VQ, I didn't sleep the night before, and I memorized my COT. I don't ever think about a COT anymore. It's usually, hey guys, thanks for coming, whatever. Here's what's on my heart, whatever. But I memorized, rehearsed my COT the first time, and I probably did that for the first couple times.
Yep.
But it is interesting. I mean, as that newness is like setting in, you do need to be like, I guess guys should be kind of cautious of making sure that it's not consuming too much of their lives.
Absolutely.
Right? There needs to be a healthy balance of, hey, yeah, this is great and this is good for you, but okay, where are my other priorities?
100%.
Where do they need to be aligned? So.
Yeah, the F3 Nation guys did a cast a long time ago on F3 as your mistress. And it was really good. I'm still in denial when I listen to that or think about that. But it's I love the way you reference the Concentrica, right? Because you do kind of put that in there, and the reality is that F3 itself is really not in there at all, you know. And so trying to figure out how to balance that. Curious, I mean, how did you right size that? Because you also your M has always, or at least with Bia and some of the women's workout groups, is like, you know, there's a time conflict there. So how have you reconciled that, or where are you at today?
We made kind of a schedule, made it work. I kind of shifted some of my days. I have done Mondays and Wednesdays. You know, the Murph again, which I'm not I loved that first Murph, but I've never been a fan of the Murph. I've always had trouble, like, it's too fast for me. Like, I can't do that many pull-ups or that many squats in that quick of time period. And so I always had like a really negative attitude toward it. But recently I've kind of rethought about it, and I'm just like, all right, just worry about me. If I get 4 pull-ups in and then the guys move, I move, and I get that workout in. But Brandis and I, we just kind of work through what days she wants to work out. You know, given her that this is a priority to her too, I need to respect that she wants to have fitness as a part, and then her fellowship with the gals through that. But the timing actually has ended up working out pretty good. They start. Our kids are older, so we started leaving them home for 10 minutes at 6 a.m. And we just kind of drive by each other in the neighborhood. So that has also helped. That I have a 10-year-old now, and they can call us if anything were to happen in that 10 minutes while they're sleeping, but it's really unlikely. So it's been, it kind of resolved itself almost a little bit.
Nice. And I love so I want to point this out because I hope guys don't miss it. You're intentionally having a conversation with your M about what's coming up this week, you know, and I think that's so crucial. You know, I'm learning that some of it's just communicating what my plan is instead of like just keeping it in my head. And then that allows me to maybe hear that my plan is ridiculous or just for her to be aware. You know, we're at a spot now where I'm back to 4 days a week, and really what it boils down to is what you're saying. We just didn't carve out time for me to say, hey, here's where I'd like to go this week on these days, and then give her a chance to weigh in and say, I'd love to sleep in on 1 day a week. You know, being married to a complete non-morning person. It's been interesting.
Well, I think for you, it's important that you're not going in assuming that you're entitled to those days. Right.
And that, to be honest, that is how I was like, no, Tuesdays and Thursdays are mine. Like, I've done those days since I started 3 years ago. And so that is that you have to take a step back and be like, no, that's to give and take. All right, well, I'll leave early on Tuesday, but I'd rather not on Thursday then, that type of thing. We've kind of worked that out and worked through it. So, conversation.
Do you feel like you had that relationship with your M before F3, or has F3 helped in any way there?
Both. We had a little bit. Conversation would get better, and then it kind of would drop off a little bit, and lately it's been a lot better. And so that's definitely a piece of it, and just being intentional and focused. And like I would say, I would do 2 happy hours a week, and she'd be like, well, why are the kids at club until 5 every day? I'm like, well, because I work. And she's like, you golfed on Tuesday and you had happy hour on Wednesday. And I'm like, you know, that is absolutely fair. And so I've really tried to refocus a little bit more time and energy, especially in the afternoons during the workday. Because I always looked at it as like, well, 8 to 5 is the workday. Like, kids are at school, they can be at club. Anything during 8 and 5 is almost like a free pass. It's almost kind of how I looked at it. And I've reevaluated. That's definitely not the way it should be. So that's.
Well, and it's good you're having that conversation, because I think you're describing like the ebbs and flows of life, right? I mean, especially, and I think you're hitting on something very important of like refocusing yourself to be more intentional about what your actions are, because you'll notice that, you know, you're describing this up and down, these ebbs and flows of like communication with your wife. The more you're taking time to actually do that, the closer you feel with your wife, and the better that communication is going to be. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Our analogy is like within the Word, or in the Word, or with the Bible, or however you want to say it. But the more you're in it, or the more you're in F3 or whatever it is, the closer you feel to the Word or to God. At least I do. And I think it's the same for everything. So the more you're practicing your communication with your wife, the better it's going to be. So I think you're doing the right thing.
The better it's going to be, or just I think also as we get closer to people, sometimes it creates more healthy tension. You know, you know, my mindset now is like, well, the reason we have difficult conversations is because we're both so passionate. It's not because we just want to argue.
You just don't fight.
It's because we're passionate, you know, and I think that's okay too. Curious your thoughts. I know I've seen you in a lot of Q-Source discussions over the years, and you mentioned the book study. How have those been? Do you feel like, is that something from an F3 perspective, have those been helpful or meaningful, or what's your take there?
I do, and I just like that you get 10 to 15 guys in a circle, and the book is one thing, but I actually like the conversation that stems from it afterwards, and like how different people can look at the same idea and have 2 different opposite views and have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy dialogue, I enjoy debate sometimes. Like, even if I agree with you, I'll pretend I don't, just because there's no point in being like, hey, we have the same thought, that's cool, and so dialogue is good, and so I've always enjoyed those about the book studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, were you there, I can't remember, did you stick around this morning?
No, I had a jet.
Okay.
Because Brandis needed to work out, so I had to be home by 6:10.
Okay. Well, hey, that's all right. We were talking about shield lock this morning, and it's fascinating just because the number of different perspectives around shield lock. Like, we've got, queen service, right? The guy's doing that as kind of a shield lock. We've got the respect pop-up that was, really done just so that wait time could feel comfortable getting older. And sorry, wait time, that's for you. I hope you're listening. But that's kind of a shield lock, right? And so we have some of these groups that are like, they're shield locks in a sense, but we aren't like labeling them that way. And you mentioned shield lock with the fellowship piece, but what's in your experience with the shield lock? Is that something you've been able to kind of form with some guys, or?
Very much so, and kind of like you said, some of them are more surface level, a little bit deeper. I mean, it's almost like there's different layers of a shield lock, if you would, and like how vulnerable you are in it. Sometimes like the first would be like almost like an accountability group. I mean, we had a queen service shield lock, if you would, of Jean-Claude and Gobbler and I, and we texted every day and spun every day together, and like we'd send porn pictures of Reese's Pieces, gummy bears. I mean, just it was awesome and terrible at the same time, and so that was really good because that was a group that also we got closer then, and it kind of allowed a little bit, but that wasn't one where you're going to confide necessarily your deepest or your struggles you're having at work or this or that. I mean, you could, but it just there's just different levels. And then like through COVID, that group was 10 close guys, then through that you have like your 3 that you're like, hey, I'm dying, these are the guys that I'm going to call right now. You know what I mean? It's almost like a tiered event, if you would. So
that's awesome.
Well, it is, and it's, I mean, we had discussion today about what should the group be, what should we be talking about? What is important to us? Should it be very structured and we're going through points here, we got 3 material, or should it be a little bit more conversational, or how should it be? And it's, you're right. I mean, you're alluding to navigating through and feeling each other out. I mean, that's essentially what we're doing, but it's, to me, it's been about having a group of guys like that I would call if I was dying, if I would leave my kids with these guys, something like that. And I like the accountability piece. It's, hey guys, hold me accountable for these, not just the workout, right? It's these other things in my life that I'm struggling through, that I'm working toward bettering myself on. Can you help hold me accountable? So
I sent a text to my shield lock group the other day that was just like a helpful prayer that I found, and I got 2 separate phone calls. Hey, you doing okay? I was like, it's supposed to be helpful, right?
They look at it almost like a cry for help.
I love that, and I absolutely love the number of guys that we've talked to that like COVID has made relationships stronger. I love that.
Right.
I think it wasn't necessarily maybe what everybody thought COVID would do, and it's been great for a lot of guys.
I mean, I thought it would be a hindrance and suck and shut down, and then it was a time to either sulk or grow.
Yeah,
I mean, you kind of could choose what you wanted to do with that. So
I love that. I want to talk to you a little bit, or learn from you. So tell us about the Brickyard and what I'm curious about. So we had a MRF. We had several MRF sites. We got a weight site. We got some running sites. We've done coupon workouts for IPC, but then you kind of come forward, and the funny thing is, I remember, I feel like it was a run or a pre-run or something, and you and I were talking, and it was like, 3 different site Qs had asked you to take over their site, and then we have this new idea, but I feel like the coupon thing was your original idea, but tell us about that and kind of your leadership journey.
Well, I was really excited to take over the woodshed was my goal. I'm not even joking you. Like,
I think he asked me like 2 months, and I'm like, man, I've still got some time.
Yeah, he said, like, I'm not ready. I was like, it's not till October or something like that. And so it was like 6 months in advance that I reached out to you on that. So because I had posted every Friday at the woodshed, like that was like my OG site, if you would. I really so I was kind of sad to not get that. But then, when we were on a pre-run, it was at Paradise, and chat about possible expansion, and maybe would I want to do a new site. And I was like, oh, well, Swanson would be a cool site, because we had done some pop-ups for COVID there, and And you're like, well, I think someone's already kind of maybe looking at that. Toadstool, 2 middle fingers up at you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, and I've always loved IPC, the first couple especially. I love how they just kick your ass, and especially, I mean, a lot of it is the coupon side of it. Just the, the blockies, the carries, the rifle carries, that spindle one where it was a wheel where you have the rifle out to the middle. I mean, when I look back at one of the hardest work, that is one that sticks out in my head. And so I was like, well, I personally don't love heavy metal because I love running. I love getting my heart rate up. I mean, I like the workout, but it's just, that's not my cup of tea, if you would. But I was like, but I need to lift, so how can we do both of them a little bit? And so I was like, all right, let's do like an IPC coupon style beatdown where you can incorporate however much the coupon into it, but have it be a cardio based beatdown with a coupon, so it's a little bit of a hybrid between the two. Kind of pitched that, and I think he said, well, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea. Let's give it a go. And it started off good. Launches always have good numbers. I was a little concerned.
I was jealous. I was like, oh my gosh. I was a little miffed at first. Like, okay, this Brickyard, it's opening. Where's this opening?
Right.
Okay, right.
It's 6 blocks away.
Sounds good. They're going to be lifting. Guys don't like to lift in their blocks, so it's fine. But yeah, I mean, I remember the first few, it's like, okay, well, it's the opening. They've got 30. We were averaging like 30 guys, 35 guys at the woodshed. So it was necessary to expand, for sure. But yeah, it's hard not to be a little self-conscious about it when you're like, oh yeah, Huffy got 30 today. Oh, okay, opening week, no big deal. And then it continued for like 3 weeks. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? But I think it was good because as that leveled out, then you start to see both sides survive. And it's actually like forging us and like forcing us to be in these small workout groups, which is like the epitome of F3, right? I mean, that's the whole point. And while we do want sites to be super successful and have 30 guys because there is a pride component there. I mean, it does make sense to get back to the mission, I guess. So I am happy for you at the end. I thought you did a great job. I didn't get to go.
You guys need a moment?
We already had it. I got to go to the site because I didn't ever get to go because I was the site queue for so long. And
I had your coupon in my garage for like 6 months.
And then I finally got to go. I gave you my coupon. I think that may be one of the coolest things that any site queue does for anyone. So encourage anyone that hasn't gone out to the Brickyard yet. I don't know, are you going to continue to do that? Or
Vanilla Ice says he's not going to do it.
Who's asking him? Is there training for that?
Yeah, he said, hey, I'll only consider this if this is not a part of the requirement. So, but no, it was interesting when it started that we did the pop-ups.
Yeah.
And we had single digits though, like 4 or 6 guys. But then like the Trident did a pop-up and it has 28, and then the Mission has 27. So it was one of those things that like, I was like, is this actually going to work? Do you guys want to do this? And it ended up being really good. We averaged probably between like 14 and 18 a week, which is that perfect number. I mean, a little smaller than that personally. I like that 10. I really love those single digits, those small workout groups. But the style of workout is pretty easy to do to small groups of 4, and then you move, and because you can't lift a coupon for 45 minutes.
No.
Right.
So. Yeah.
Well, ultimate marketing, giving people free coupons. Stylized coupons. This is a good way to
they're not
track.
free anymore.
Yeah.
There was a fee I had to pay.
Yeah. I do love, though, you also added your own flavor with the sleds, the coupon sleds, so that was a really cool feature. And I remember feeling like the level of hospitality, right, from the site queue at the Brickyard was a little bit higher than, let's say, the woodshed.
My name's Huffy.
No, it was good. What do you think inspired you to do the coupons? Are you, have you always been an artistic guy?
A little bit. I have always doing art projects when I was a kid. I left that part out when I was getting named because, my brothers called me Martha Stewart growing up. We don't need to go down that path.
Good choice.
But no, with the Brickyard, I thought it'd be kind of cool to make, because I knew as a site queue I would need to have extra coupons for guys who showed up who didn't. And so I made 4 coupons that looked like bricks. I painted them gray, and then I taped them up, and then brick red, and then splattered them, and then I labeled them the Brickyard, and I made one with me with a little bike on it, or Huffy on it, and they turned out, I thought, really cool. I was like, hey, that's neat. And then I got COVID the next week, and so I was really disappointed, and I was like, what am I going to do in the basement for a week? And I looked at those first coupons, and it literally made me think of the Nintendo Mario screen, and I was like, I wonder if I could make, so Toadstool was only first because
Of the Mario.
Of the Mario. Like I had to.
Yeah.
I should have done Wario. But like just.
Yeah.
But so it made me think of the Nintendo blocks, and I kind of started that. I ordered some paint pens off Amazon, of the number of 18 pens, and kind of turned out awesome.
Yeah.
After a couple of days, and I was like, well, I got 5 more days. Who do I do next? And I just started kind of going down that list of, a lot of the guys who worked out during COVID before it opened up, and and then guys started to reach out a little bit. So I started at 18, and I started ordering more paint pens, and I mean, my wife's like, what are you doing? When I'm in the basement locked up, I'm like, hey, would you go to Menards and get 5 more cinder blocks?
Yeah.
Like, she's like, what are you doing? So, but she's embraced
it. To date, how many have you done?
126.
For you.
No, 126. So
did we get them all there?
We did not. We only had 96 there.
Okay. Mine was missing.
Yours was
missing. I got halfway down and I'm like, damn it, I forgot.
Mine was missing.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So it wasn't neat for that. A lot of guys just found a way to get their coupons down to there, because even if they couldn't make it, they wanted to get in there. So that was neat.
Are guys requesting, like, hey, I want mine to look like this, or are you the sole designer?
So it's funny. Usually I have been the one who comes up with it. They're just like, hey, can I get one? And I'm like, yeah. Send me a Slack message with how you got your name, a little bit about you. Because I usually try to tailor it to how they got their name. I do that now because I made knobs.
Yeah.
And I literally thought he was a real estate agent who went door to door. It turns out that is not so. When I sent Jean-Claude a picture of that when it was done, he called me. He was just laughing his ass off. He's like, you know why his name is Knobs, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, no, man, it's from the Citadel. I was like, oh. I said, I'll repaint it. He goes, you can't. You cannot. He goes, he's getting that.
It's classic.
So that was funny. But the one who did it was Ruxpin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he came and said, hey man, I would love to get a coupon. And he's like, here's what I want. I was like, whoa, nope, you don't get to tell me anything, man.
Right, yeah.
And then I was like, I'm sorry, that was kind of dickish.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell me, but I probably won't do it.
Yeah, it's like coming up with your own name.
And he's like, well, I'm a professional paintballer, so I'd like something to do with like a teddy bear and a paintball. And I was like, that's weird, dude. So it kind of melded the two, and he has Tenny's the Ruxpin wearing paintball glasses, holding a paintball gun up in the air, and splattered the paint. It turned out really cool. So, but
all this is say no requests.
Yeah, exactly.
That one turned out cool, but that's a one and done.
Send me a Slack message and with the name, and that's kind of how it goes. Or like Toto, and I was like, well, that's your name's spelled wrong though. Like, T-O-T, and he's like, well, Slow Pitch likes it that way.
Yeah, Slow Pitch likes it that way. I love it.
Or same with like Diddy. That's not the name from the song, it's Paperboy. So, it's kind of funny how that all comes together.
Do you think, is there any, so you've just kind of done it based on guys reaching out, is there, okay.
Yeah.
The other day, I was running with somebody, we were talking about, I think it was Vanilla Ice, because I was giving him crap that now he has to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we were talking about, like, maybe you do it on a guy's anniversary, or
right.
after they post a certain number of times, or you think he'll do that, or are you just going to kind of
request
line?
Maybe, I mean, the problem is they take a long time,
and
I did enjoy it, but again, it goes back to that, where are you putting your time, and
where's that on the
kind of maybe like to shift a little bit more of that, but I enjoy doing them, and anniversaries would be a neat idea to do, because the big people was like, what's cool, like, I reached out to TC, and I was like, I have a great, do you want one? He's like, nah. I said, well, that's too bad. I already started.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Because I was like, he flew helicopters. I was like, how badass would it be? And so I found out what kind of helicopter he flew and kind of threw it on there.
That's cool.
So, but yeah, I really haven't thought about if you would just be anniversaries or number of posts. And as a site view, that probably would have been the way to, on your 6 posts at the Brickyard, you get added to the queue or something like that. So.
Yeah. Well, you're nationwide now. You got some recognition. Dude.
Yeah. Are you in touch with the other guys?
Just Kansas City.
Okay.
His name's Mosby. Him and I text quite a bit.
Okay.
He's an architect down there, and kind of
make sure you're not recycling.
Exactly. And how we do it, and how he does it for guys just out of love. And I said, oh, I'm past that. I do it for whiskey now.
Isn't there one in Seattle? There
is. Yeah. That's the one where we got the idea to do the wall, but I've never talked with that guy up there. So
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's funny, some of these things, like Folsom with the shovel flags, and you're like, every region probably has a guy doing that.
Yep.
It's just like, are they all doing it the same way? Maybe not. I love that. What about from SiteQ perspective? Do you feel like that helped your leadership grow at all, or what was that experience?
I think it did and has. I remember, I don't know if it was you or Tater Top, but like 2 weeks into being a site Q, I was like, man, I almost look at this group a little bit and how you come into it and like purposely trying to talk to guys that you don't have a relationship with, and how you reach out to site Qs afterwards and that side of things. So that's been definitely kind of neat, making those connections and making that effort. Because sometimes you're like, man, my cup's full.
Yeah.
Like we got 20 new guys a week now, and we're at 120 guys a week posting. And if you go out to the farm or the armory, like if you post in one general area and you haven't been to a different place for 6 months, you go, chances are you're going to know 2 of the guys out there.
Right.
I mean, it's really kind of crazy the growth and how it's kind of blown up. So it makes me feel like to try to get to know these guys, but also there's only so much time in a day too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but being intentional with those guys.
Well, and then speaking of growth, you get to see your own site grow, right?
Yep.
And select a successor here, so in Vanilla Ice, I guess, what went into that? I mean, what stuck out there? You don't have to talk about the guy necessarily, but what were you looking for? How did you know it was the right time?
The year has always been like the target, so because I just thought it'd be kind of cool to hit that anniversary. If it wasn't ready, like you, I mean, you went, what, 3 years? Something like that for the Woodshed before you found the right guy.
The problem is also, wow, you took over, started a new site, you were the guy that was in contention. Sticky was another guy that
He moved.
moved away.
Yep.
And then other people were just more aggressive than I were.
So
I'm just like, you know what?
So what you're saying right now is exactly why I also got ahead of it, because when F3 expands, we want guys who have been in the group for a little bit and who are, leaders, or you kind of want to push them in that position a little bit. So when this happened, the first starfish with, Danger Zone, Coop, Brickyard, some of those guys who you might have been targeting get swept up. And I knew that we were going to have another round, so I'm like, I'm going to find my guy now. I'm not going to make a pony mistake.
Oh, yeah.
And then so I was like, who has been posting at the Brickyard consistently? Who has that potential to step up? And, and if he wants to make it his own and do his own thing, then that's awesome. Because, I mean, when Spacebar redesigned like the logo of Heavy, he's like, do you think this is okay? Like, it's your site.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I do think it's neat when guys have the will or the want, and if there is a reason to make changes, So, I mean, hopefully he keeps it a coupon-based site. That'd be nice, Vanilla.
Yeah.
To not get rid of that part. And to make it not stagnant and keep running a little bit.
Move down to bricks.
Yeah, exactly.
Normal bricks.
So,
I love that. It's funny because we try to keep visibility to like who are the guys we're kind of actively, courting, if you will, to be in a leadership role. But it's also like who's interested, who wants 100%. That responsibility.
See, I think we could be better on the visibility. To be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, so when we're thinking about guys who are going to take over, and you're a site Q, I mean, a lot of times it was just conversations like, hey, what do you think about this guy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Here's who I'm thinking, and then you're like, oh, that guy's already taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, that's something I'll take that. Things that was on my mind is as we're expanding, as we're like let people know.
Right.
I think that would be the other thing. The other thing that happens.
Or if there's a guy, hold on, just to interject.
Yeah.
If there's a guy that's interested, let people know that you're interested.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Speak up.
Yeah, and as far as making it your own, so like Paradise Island had an interesting thing happen where Paradise Bakery is closing, and so Icy Hot is like, well, how do we do this? And it's like, well, what do you want to do? You're the site Q. You have a connection with those guys, and like, so letting the leader of the site navigate, but also supporting. I think one of the challenges with a physical location is some people are attached to that, but we've got to think about, okay, how's the site serving the packs, and how do we adjust to maintain that kind of service, right? If we're trying to keep Q-Source, on-site coffee, that type of thing, then we might have to adjust if the coffee shop's closing and a women's dress shop is opening, or whatever the retail space might be. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Third F, about Faith. We've had some conversations at Q-Source, and I feel like you've been really vulnerable and just like kind of the journey.
Yeah.
I don't know if F3 has helped you there, or if you feel like, spiritually, faith perspective, and you can go as deep as you want. I know it's kind of a deep question, but where are you at today with faith?
still struggling.
Yeah.
We chatted a little bit, some stuff's happened in the past, college and just some experiences, and kind of hurt my Christian path, if you would, you know, my faith there, and so that's been a struggle. But I do love that F3 doesn't dwell or focus on that side. I think one of the podcasts had like we have that avenue. We have Bible studies. We have a couple different faith groups that if you want that piece of this puzzle, it's available to you.
Yeah.
But it's not put as part of, you know, of it, if you would. So the third F to me though has been important, more from a community and a community aspect, if you would.
Yeah.
Doing the blood and getting guys to get involved on that side of things. So I mean, I would say, unfortunately, my third F is probably the lowest. Yeah. Like my least strongest, I would say, in that aspect.
Sure.
That was one thing I wish I would have done better or more as a site Q, has gotten more involved. Yeah. On that third F side. I mean, even if it's like clean up of stints and like your site, do something like that. Host in some way, host an event. You know, a couple of those guys did like Christmas fundraisers and that type of stuff, and that would be one thing that I wish I would have done just a little bit differently.
Sure. Yeah. And that's an opportunity. I think it's, you know, just how do we do that, and how do we support you? From a faith perspective, do you draw a certain like energy or just kind of confidence from just the guys, just kind of the group and the prayer at the end and the COT? So you're developing spiritually, but just not kind of selecting a religion, you know, which I think is good. And I think the majority of our packs are in that spot. And I guess for me, I'm like, the biggest question on my mind is how do we make sure we have what you need if you have questions? Like we have some way. Right. And I think we do. I think the way that happens is just through relationships, just like conversation. Like, and I think guys know, you know, who they can reach out to or how to get more info, or if they want to go explore a church or whatever it might be. Right. But I'm with you. I love, when I was running with Armbar, right when we got to our discussion on faith, we were running by the Tri-Faith campus out there, and it was just this not weird, it was kind of amazing, like God moment of just like, you know, the purpose for this group, right? If we're going to be a space where guys can even explore, have questions, and be vulnerable in these areas of their lives, we've got to come forward with like our own beliefs, but then also allowing another guy to be wherever he's at. Right. So I love that, and thanks for sharing. Just kind of where you're at.
Absolutely.
What so kind of looking at well, a couple things. Advice for site Qs, maybe. Anything on your list there? And then I think also curious your advice. F&Gs, new guys. How do we do those things better?
I tell you, one thing I always tried to do, and you kind of mentioned it, is I always really try to have high energy. Yeah. I mean, even if I felt like crap and didn't want to be there. I mean, I always wanted to be there, but you know what I mean. Like, I felt it was important to, like, you come in the morning hot and excited. Guys get excited, right? It almost lightens the mood. You laugh a little bit, and I feel like you can work out a little bit harder versus just like, oh, well, let's get this done type thing. So I mean, I would definitely just having such a positive attitude can make an impact on guys around you. At 5:30 in the morning.
Absolutely.
For new guys, I kind of mentioned earlier, I love reaching out if I bring someone and let them know the dates, where I'll be that week. Mm-hmm. Hey man, I'm going to be at Paradise today. Yep. Well, I see you there, like that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And those small little nudges just can have such an impact, getting them to show up. I mean, just being asked, hey, can I pick you up? Do you guys want to go? Yeah. That type of thing. So.
Did you have many F&Gs come to Brickyard?
No, I think I did.
I was curious.
It was kind of sad. I was really hopeful. Yeah. Maybe 2 over a year. I mean. Yeah. So. I don't know.
They usually get the easier ones.
So the woodshed is where they
the woodshed are called the F&Gs, the Friday morning F&Gs. Yeah. Well, just curious, you know, you can tell, right? If an F&G shows up at a Monday Murph, you know the guy told him very little about the workout. Yep. And then I'm guessing, you know, we maybe don't have at some of the more challenging sites, or, you know, like, I don't know. Just
there were 3 at the Trident yesterday, I think it was, and I was just like, man, I wish I got to name 3 guys.
Yeah.
In total, like over a year, let alone a day.
Yeah.
So.
Where do you see yourself going from here? Are you kind of taking some time off, focusing on family, that kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, I'm excited just to sleep if it's raining.
Yeah.
Because I love the cold. It can be -7. I don't care. It can be hot and humid. I don't care. But if it rains, I hate it.
Yeah.
Literally, I just hate being wet and your legs friction touching. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
So I enjoy sleeping in if it's raining. But no, I plan on still staying involved, posting 4 days a week, keeping that side of the thing, side of my fitness involved, and just helping out where I can. Keep doing the coupons as of now.
Yeah.
That's still kind of fun and keep me involved. It gets me to know some guys who I don't know too. I'll just get random texts from guys, and then it starts a conversation. And
yeah.
I mean, when you see them, you kind of chat. There are a lot of people that like the event before a year where I didn't know them. They're like, "Hey, Huffy, what's going on?" And you're like, "Oh, hey,
yeah,
what's up, man?" So it's like, I would like to continue to get to know these guys.
I think you're famous now. Wait till this podcast comes out.
Yeah.
For all 30 listeners.
Yeah. Hey, they're listening.
15 or me.
Yeah, and they're
from different
listening.
computers.
They're listening 3 or 4 times. I do think I did want to call out something that you did really well as a site Q that I always appreciated. So we try to have these meetings, right? And Zoom meetings are terrible, but I feel like no matter what we were doing or talking about, you always had the courage to bring forward questions that were on your mind, or like, hey, here's a question that the PACs have,
right.
And I think that's really what we're looking for is like, the site Qs need to be the voice of the guys attending their site. Otherwise, like between Tater and Slow Pitch and John Claude, Firewalker, and I, we can't be at every workout, and so I think you did that really, really well. Whereas kind of like, we didn't have to pull information. It was like, what's going on at Brickyard, and you always seem to have a good pulse check, and that was really like, it just allows a sense of peace to be like, hey, this he's got his site, he knows his guys, and things are running.
Well, and again, it goes to that conversation, and we do have a leadership team, but we also have 200 PACs beneath them.
Yeah.
And so it's, hey, we're not why are you guys doing this, or why is this missing, or how can we do this better, that kind of thing. So I agree, just chiming in, and I would encourage other site Qs to, if you have an opinion, say it.
That's
that doesn't mean it's going to change, but then you can have a conversation with Flag of why it's being done that way, and be informed. So chances are, if I said it, the PACs wanted to know, it's just me.
Yeah,
no.
But that's okay. Hey, that's good. I think that's great. I think the other question we've been really trying to ask guys is what do you need encouragement for, or prayers for, or just as we see out there in the gloom, anything that guys could ask you about or be thinking about, anything?
Things are going really well. Transition went well. Life's going well. Work's crazy as shit right now.
Yeah.
A lot of balls up in the air. Refocusing on the family would be a big piece of that. The support that I have from Brandis and and the kiddos is awesome. But just work-life balance, fun balance, that type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. We'll make sure we ask about that when we see you. Anything else? Any other questions, Pony?
Good.
No.
I got like 10 questions and I feel pretty good. Right?
Yeah, this has been. We're trying to balance the voice of the other end here.
Yeah.
Well, I think just being in person is so much better. We can cut all this, but it's so much better.
Yeah.
Youngest?
Yeah. I am John Woodward, 30 Pony Express.
Pony Express. Brandon Fleardy, 36, The Plague.
The Plague. And Nick Adams, 38, Huffy.
Huffy, ching ching.
Huffy,
Ching,
ching ching.
Bling bling.
Bling bling.